You're drawn to people who seem so open and free, even wild at first. And then they turn out to be insecure, confused, and overly dependent, and it drives you crazy. They don't follow through on the things they say they're going to do. They're scattered, they're unorganized, they can't stick to a plan, and it's frustrating for you. And they move from being like so willing and eager to suddenly shaming you, criticizing you, and having, a huge fight with you. And that's confusing because you don't know what's going on with them. So if this sounds like you might be exactly the kind of person that a boundaryless person is drawn to. Ask yourself if you tend towards having strong leadership roles wherever you go, that people look to you for advice and solutions. Do you tend to be decisive and like order around you? Are you someone who you can say you're going to do something and you stick to that plan? If you say you're going to go to exercise every single morning at 7 o'clock, you'll show up at 7 o'clock in the morning. Unlike this other person who keeps saying they'll do things and they just don't even get started, or they do it for a week and they drop off. So if people who are boundaryless, who don't have a good sense of self, they are drawn to people who have a strong sense of self. And it's a good thing if you are someone who has that clarity, who has that decisiveness and follow through. Where it becomes unhealthy is where you have your strong sense of self is so strong that you become rigid and inflexible, and you don't know how to go with the flow. So things need to be your way or the highway. And it leaves you feeling out of control if someone challenges you. So you have to have the last word. Otherwise, if you don't, it feels like you're disrespected. If people don't come on time, if they don't do what they said they would do, it all feels like they're disrespecting you. So that sense of control is really important to you. What has happened often for you at an early age is a few things. One is that maybe when you were exploring, and if you look at the available, unavailable pattern that I spoke about last week, where when you wanted to explore, you were not allowed to. Either a parent was overprotective of you or was needing you emotionally for their well-being. So there could be an aspect of that wound here, which is that protective part of you. I need to control everything. I won't be controlled. And I don't like the fact that I don't feel I can be myself unless I have rigid boundaries. Another aspect of this wound is when you went through the stage of discovering who you am. And children go through the stage of going, I am big, I am small, I am a monster, I am Superman, I am pink, I am blue. And if you had parents who shamed you or criticized you for any of those things you were exploring, where they said, no, don't cry, boys don't cry, boys don't wear pink, no, you're not a monster, you talk too much. So if you were shamed for being aspects, what would have happened is that you denied those parts of yourself and got really strong in the parts that your parents approved of, because you got their validation, you got their recognition. We all want to be seen. It's a strong human need. And so you learned that if I fit into this box, then I get recognized by society. And so you become this box strongly. And you walk around, you see my box, and nobody mess with my box. It feels unsettling to you if people want to rattle the box at all. So even someone changing plans feels like your box is being unsettled, and it makes you angry. And then you draw people to you who either are being doormatish, so they're so flighty, wishy-washy, they don't know what they want, or they're attacking you and putting you down and degrading you for being the leader that they wanted you to be. And I know that that must hurt and feel confusing, that you've done so much for them, but they seem to be so ungrateful. So what has happened is that you have someone who's boundaryless because they have no sense of self, with someone who has a strong sense of self, but only in one aspect, who's terrified of any other aspects of themselves coming out. And these two people are drawn to each other. It's not only in romantic relationships. You'll find this in work relationships, in friendships, all over, where one person is looking to the other to lead and define, and that person gets mad because they don't like the way you've led. And you, on the other hand, as the person who's leading, cannot stand it when people challenge you. Anything feels like a challenge, even when they're not challenge you. They're just wanting to explore themselves and have a voice, but that feels a threat to you. And there's a spectrum. So on the one hand, you have someone who's a dictator and a total bully. And on the other hand, you have someone who's a total submissive doormat. So there's a spectrum, and you might be anywhere between that spectrum, and sometimes healthy and sometimes unhealthy, or you might be often unhealthy. And this is a pattern. So the more one person goes here, the more the other person here, and that polarity gets bigger and bigger, and both sides get amplified, and then they clash. Relationships that have this pattern don't last. So this is a pattern that the first thing you want to do is for you to learn how to be a little bit more flexible and give space to others to be seen, to let them have an opinion, even if the opinion is opposite to yours. And that's going to feel challenging emotionally for you. The other thing is to develop your ability to have compassion, to be able to put yourself in other people's shoes. People who have developed very rigidly have often suppressed the ability to feel. And it's why it feels so scary, because you don't want to feel. You're not used to feeling. So if you can allow yourself to just soften a bit and allow your feelings a bit of space in your life, it'll be easier to be a bit more flexible and to lean into the other person's needs. And these are things that I cover more deeply in my Dare to Love Club, which is opening next week. So those of you who are interested to know more about that, jump into my message box, let me know, say yes please, and I can tell you what's going to be inside. I will see you guys tomorrow.